The car pulled out of the driveway, leaving behind a quiet, empty house. The family had been planning this vacation for months and didn't want to cancel it, even though the elderly father had been feeling under the weather. "We'll be back. Soon?" they assured him, their voices filled with excitement, not realizing how frail he truly was. The old man waved from the porch, a weak smile on his face, but as the car disappeared down the road, his heart sank. Alone in the stillness of the house, he couldn't shake a growing unease. The silence seemed louder than usual, and a strange chill settled in the air. What if something goes wrong while they're gone, he thought, a knot tightening in his chest. Have you ever been left completely alone, wondering if you'd be okay? The kind of loneliness that makes the walls feel like they're closing in? Little did the family know. Something extraordinary was about to happen. Something that would change their lives forever. As night fell, the old man sat in his chair, clutching his chest. A sharp, burning pain spread through his body, and a wave of dizziness nearly knocked him over. His hands trembled as he tried to steady himself, but his legs gave way, and he collapsed onto the cold, hard floor. The house was silent. Too silent. Every creak of the old wooden walls seemed to echo his helplessness. He tried to call out, but there was no one to hear him, no one to bring him water, no one to ease his pain. His breathing grew heavier as the darkness in his mind deepened. What would you do if you were completely alone and every second felt like it could be your last? The old man lay there, staring at the ceiling, his thoughts spiraling into despair. Was this how it would all end? Alone, in an empty house, with nothing but silence as his witness? He shut his eyes, hoping for relief, but none came. Instead, the pain grew sharper, as if life itself was slipping away. Through the dim light of the moon, the old man, barely conscious, caught sight of something unusual outside his window. At first, he thought his failing mind was playing tricks on him. There, standing still as a statue, was a wild horse, its coat dark and sleek, its eyes shimmering with a strange intelligence. He blinked, trying to focus. Was this a dream? Had his pain driven him into hallucinations? But no, the horse was real, and it wasn't moving away. Instead, it stepped closer, its hooves making soft, deliberate thuds against the ground. What could bring a wild horse to an empty house in the middle of nowhere? Why now, of all times? As the old man's strength faded, he couldn't look away from the creature. The horse seemed to be staring back at him, its gaze intense and almost knowing. It was as if it could sense his suffering, as if it had come for a reason. But what could a mare horse do for a dying man? And then, with a slow, deliberate motion, the horse stepped right up to the window as if to say, "You're not alone." The sound of the door creaking open startled the old man. Summoning the last ounce of his strength, he turned his head to see the wild horse, Robbin, standing in the doorway. Its dark eyes glimmered in the faint light, and its movements were calm yet purposeful. The horse nudged a bucket of water closer, as if urging the man to drink. Moments later, it returned with fresh fruit from a nearby tree, dropping them gently by his side. The man, weak and bewildered, could only stare in disbelief. How could this animal know exactly what I need? Have you ever seen animals do something so extraordinary that it felt almost human? Could they truly sense our pain and needs? But Robbin didn't stop there. It stayed close, its warm presence filling the cold, lonely room. The horse seemed to radiate a strange comfort, as though it was more than just an animal. It wasn't just feeding his body, it was mending his spirit, giving him a reason to hold on. But how could a horse, of all creatures, know how to do this? Each passing day felt like a miracle. Robbin, the wild horse, became the old man's unexpected savior. It brought leaves and herbs from the nearby forest, some of which smelled strangely familiar, like the remedies his wife once used. Even more astonishing, the horse seemed to know which ones to place closer, as if choosing them with purpose. The man, though still weak, began to feel a small spark of strength returning. The searing pain in his chest eased, and the fog clouding. His mind began to lift. He couldn't help but wonder, how can a creature with no voice, no hands, and no human knowledge know exactly what I need? What would you do if something so mysterious, so impossible, started happening in your life? Yet, as hope slowly returned, the man couldn't shake the question. Was this horse simply extraordinary, or was something otherworldly at play? His health was improving, but his heart whispered that Robbin's role in his life was far from over. Could this strange, wild savior do even more? Just as the old man began to feel better, his condition took a sudden turn for the worse. The pain returned, sharper and more unforgiving, leaving him gasping for air. Robbin, standing by his side, seemed to sense the urgency. With a firm nudge and a determined look, the horse urged the man to follow, using every ounce of his remaining strength. The man clung to Robbin's mane as the horse gently guided him outside. The cold night air hit his face, and the journey began. A treacherous path through uneven terrain, dense woods and steep hills. The hospital was miles away, and every moment felt like a race against time. What would you do if your survival depended entirely on an animal's instincts and determination? The man's vision blurred, his body weakening further, but Robbin pressed on, refusing to stop. Hours later, as the first rays of dawn broke, the horse arrived at the hospital, carrying the frail man on its back. With one final neigh, as if announcing its mission was complete, Robbin left him safely at the hospital doors before vanishing into the morning mist. When the old man opened his eyes, he found himself in a hospital bed. Bright lights flickered overhead, and doctors surrounded him, murmuring in disbelief. His condition, which had seemed so dire, was now improving at an inexplicable pace. "How did he get here?" one doctor whispered to another. "And how is he recovering so quickly?" The old man recounted his extraordinary story, the wild horse that had cared for him, fed him, and carried him here through the night. The room fell silent as the staff exchanged puzzled glances. A horse? Could it be true? Do you think miracles like this still happen today? Or is there always a logical explanation behind such mysteries? Despite running every test, the doctors found no clear reason for the man's sudden recovery. The only certainty was the role of the mysterious horse, a creature that seemed to defy all logic. Was Robbin a guardian sent by some higher power, or just a remarkable animal with instincts beyond human understanding? Once the old man's condition stabilized, he couldn't help but ask about Robbin. "The horse, where is it?" he inquired, his voice trembling. But the hospital staff shook their heads. There was no sign of the wild horse anywhere. Not in the hospital grounds, not on the road, not even near the village. The man stared out of the window, his heart heavy with questions. Where did Robbin go? Its sudden disappearance felt as strange as its arrival. He clung to the hope that someone might see it again, but deep down, he wondered if Robbin was ever meant to stay. What would you think if something or someone saved you, only to vanish without a trace? Could it have been a guardian sent to protect him in his darkest hour? No tracks, no neighs in the distance, no clue. The horse had simply gone. The old man was left with the unshakable feeling that Robbin wasn't just a wild animal, but something far more extraordinary. A being with a purpose beyond human understanding. When the family returned from their trip, they expected to find their father frail or worse. Instead, they were greeted by something they couldn't believe. A healthier, smiling man with a spark in his eyes. As they sat around him, he told them everything. The mysterious horse, Robbin, that had cared for him, fed him, and carried him to the hospital. His words were filled with gratitude and wonder, but the room fell silent as the family exchanged uncertain glances. Could this really have happened? Or was it just a feverish dream? They wondered aloud. Would you believe such a story if you heard it? Or dismiss it as imagination? But as the old man described every detail, the horse's knowing eyes, its gentle presence, and its miraculous acts, the family felt chills. They didn't know whether to call it a miracle or fate, but one thing was certain. They were deeply thankful for whatever had saved him. Tears welled up in their eyes as they realized they had been part of something truly extraordinary. The family sat together in the quiet of their home, their hearts filled with gratitude. They bowed their heads in prayer, thanking God for the help that had come in their absence. The old man's story of Robbin, the mysterious horse, lingered in their minds, a tale that felt too incredible to be true, yet too vivid to dismiss. Was it a miracle? Or just an unbelievable coincidence? They whispered to one another, unable to decide. What do you think? Was it divine intervention, or simply a remarkable twist of fate? Though Robbin was never seen again, the horse's memory stayed with them, etched into their lives as a symbol of hope and kindness. They may never fully understand what happened, but they knew one thing. When they weren't there, something extraordinary stepped in to save the one they loved most.